Okay, so fucking Patriots. This one's gonna get the emotions going. I spoke over this last year. I went to an open mic and I spoke my poetry in front of an audience for the first time. It's another thing about audio fidelity. You get in front of a mic for the first time, no idea how my voice is going to sound, and you can't hear yourself. There's a bunch of lights. It looks so different from the stage. Just watching, you're criticizing them in your head, and these guys are silly and blah blah blah. But when you're up there, it's like shit. I can't see anyone. I can't hear myself. Hello, do I sound okay? Hello, hello. And I start speaking softer because I just don't even know. And then you're really emotional because of the moment. And when your emotions come, you start speaking a little bit higher register, and then you're also speaking faster, and then you're trying to speak louder, and now you're in a higher register, and you're trying. And that's what I noticed on these last videos is like my register was going up, and I was speaking louder to compensate. And it's nice, but I prefer this gear. So fucking Patriots. Fucking Patriots. The fucking news is fucking bold. It fucking does. It's fucking told. The fucking shows are fucking shit with fucking guns and fucking tits for fucking moms and fucking dads. For fucking kids, it's fucking rad. No one questions fucking shit. Everyone's a patriot. The fucking schools are fucking sad. The fucking books are fucking bad. There's fucking weed's a fucking cure for fucking greed and fucking hurt. The fucking jobs are fucking threats. The fucking future's fucking set. The only choice you fucking get. Everyone's a patriot. The fucking war is fucking right. We fucking fight and fucking fight. It fucking costs a fucking bit to be a fucking patriot. The fucking con is fucking big. The fucking polls are fucking rigged. The fucking fed's a fucking joke. The fucking debt's just fucking smoke. We're fucking out of fucking luck. The fucking poor are fucking fucked. The rich are getting fucking rich. Everyone's a patriot. The fucking vote is fucking lost. The fucking hope is fucking tossed to fucking left and fucking right with fucking power in their eyes. A fucking war is fucking lit like a bag of fucking shit. You fucking smell the fucking mess. You're fucking silent like the rest. Better fucking watch your lips. Everyone's a patriot. The fucking war is fucking right. We fucking fight and fucking fight. It fucking costs a fucking bit to be a fucking patriot. The fucking story's fucking sold. The fucking hero's fucking cold. The fucking soldier's fucking brave. The fucking country's fucking saved. The fucking Muslim's fucking wrong. The fucking war's fucking long. We didn't fucking start this shit. We're just fucking patriots. So, this is a good poem. It's a syntactical interpretation, another interpretation of Evidently Chicken Town. I forget the dude who wrote that. He sings it well. It was on an episode of The Sopranos, is how it entered pop culture. I just found it online, looking up poetry or something, and I like the cadence. But I thought that maybe his words and creative expression could be better applied. So I'm looking at culture, the canon culture, but also pop culture, and where we put our energy and attention. It's like, I have now my injustice, my cause, my major lump in the throat, war. I have my buddies who've been there. I have my family members. Now I'm learning about my cousin who had such a problem in there, which he's mentally 100% disabled. He'll stand in his front yard with a cross for 6 hours, and he'll freak out his neighbors. He's coming back to the rest of us slowly but surely. I would like to provide him more rope to pull him back in, but it's mental health is a complicated thing, and he's on medication, so he's not a danger to himself or other people. So his loops are so wild that they keep him a little numb, but numb is numb. So this stuff is important to me. Why aren't more people talking about that? Again, we talked about just in the previous video. Maybe that's not the best use of my effort, to worry about why, or to get angry at people for not talking about things I care about. I read that somewhere, that if you're upset about art, like artists, it just means that if they're not saying what you want to say, it means that it's time for you to get your voice out. It means you have a voice. If you're upset by everything, and most things I read I don't like, most art I take in I don't like, it just tells me I could be negative and say it's misanthropic and I'm just starting to become bitter, or I could turn it into a positive if everything is a negative and a positive, and say that I just have such a voice. Obviously it's not represented out there because I'm such a unique individual, so I need to get my voice out there. That gives me peace. It lets me not be so angry at everyone else and be more patient. They're just doing what they know. They're saying what they see. Well, how can I blame them for not seeing what I see? I put a lot of hours into reading on these topics and living my own life. I started to notice that after the military and then college and then my sales jobs, my romantic life, knowing addicts personally, methamphetamines, now heroin. Um, and then I go and try to start a relationship with someone. It's like someone who's traveled the world and then someone who hasn't left their home. Not that I look that much down on people, but I would wonder in my 20s when I meet people from high school or like, wow, you're the same. You haven't grown. And I was wondering, why am I different? And from what I'm reading about authoritarian followers, if you challenge your assumptions, that's how you get out of these loops. And I was always challenging my assumptions. And then later on, I would start to. Um, right now, I have that language of psychology because I'm looking into why people follow bad leaders as I get into politics. But back then, I just felt like every idea I had, I'd earned. So people, college professors, books, had told me, but like I had the Skeptical Environmentalist by Bjorn Lomborg or whatever is this Swedish guy who wrote this book against climate change to challenge the consensus. It's a very thick, big, well-researched book. I bought it. It was. I don't think I read it. A lot of the books I had, not a majority of them, I read like 70, 80%, but like maybe one or two out of every 10 kind of skimmed. I was like, again, intuitive. If I glanced through it and looked him up enough to feel like he was a little bit bullshit, but I had the book. I checked it out. My parents love conspiracies. That's where you get some of the good shit. Because sometimes we have blind spots in these. I always felt like a deep ecology is good. We want the crazies questioning everything, including like whether the Earth is round. What if that's something that we missed? So, but I think they're disproportionately presented in our culture in order to get us to be antagonistic against each other. How many people out of 100 really believe the Earth isn't round? With all the evidence and all the ability to research. Really more than one or two. Scientists agree that if you ask 10 people, what is it? 9 out of 10 scientists agree that one will always disagree with the other 9. 9 out of 10 scientists agree that one will always disagree with the other 9. It's a joke, but it's a play on statistics. That when I was in Occupy Wall Street, I would talk about consensus, and when people would doubt the consensus basis of making a decision, they're like, people are too crazy to try to get everyone to agree on everything. If you give one person the veto power, now it's just going to bring everything to a standstill. And I brought up, like, it's not perfect consensus. We can come up with rules where we can still have a majority, but we want to give the minority rights to voice their opinion. And we can't have more than 1 to 3 assholes in a group. Otherwise, what's your definition of human nature? You really think that more than 3 out of 10 people are crazy? No, there's always going to be oddballs who are very reluctant to join. I consider myself one of those. But I don't think it's more than a couple out of 10. There's like a 30-30-30-10 ratio, I think. 10% is eccentric, and then, most things break up into thirds. There's like a middle, and then there's a one way and another way. So there's a polarization of the issues. There's one side, there's another side, there's a fat middle that everyone's fighting for, and then there's the 10% non-joiners. And then these ratios can go up and down, but that's a pretty, maybe not all the time, but a pretty reliable way to break up the human situations I've been in and the polarizing issues that I've been around. And then most people, and even within that one side and another side, and then we have that fat middle, each of these camps also, nature proves again and again to be fractal, that patterns repeat upon patterns repeat upon patterns. As you go inwards, subatomic particles start to, under microscopes, look like universes and galaxies. So you're the universe looking at itself. There's all these cool little spiritual metaphors you can have to frame the infinite into manageable terms. So within that, I don't want to use the terms left and right, but within those smaller camps, you'll have the diehards and then the fat middle of that brand, and then the guys who are just in there to be a part of an identity. So the guys who really believe, the true believers, and then the fakers, and then the middle are like, all of these patterns replicate over and over again within a family. There'll be the funny kid, maybe there'll be the authoritarian. So this is me. Why does that relate to fucking Patriots? I was looking around me at society, and I didn't have all of these more mature thoughts of how to break down society and give myself hope and feel like I'm have a way out other than through writing. And so if I get my narrative out there, because of the quality of the art, it's going to shed some light. This healed me. That seems like how I establish truth in life, is I ingest the poison, and then by necessity I have to find the cure. So I went in the military and then got myself out of there, but it was by doing that I learned a little bit about military structure and myself. I try sales and I find, oh, that's something I was just talking to my dad yesterday about, workers' compensation and the clients that they're shopping, and they have some really nice accounts, some really nice relationships that they're developing. But that taught me a lot about society too. What is workers' compensation? Why do we need it? What is the good of it and what is the bad of it? Insurance, the industry needs to be reformed, obviously. I see that. You could ask any insurance professional, and we know that there's too much bureaucracy, too much red tape. It was like one out of every $3.33 goes towards bureaucracy, and medical billing is something they teach you in college because it's a whole industry. So we could be doing it more efficiently. So that's like there's moral hazards, but insurance deals with this. The science of insurance is what underpins our economy. You can only have a 30-year fixed mortgage if you had such a stable economy. So our home ownership society is based upon stable economics, stable financial systems, and stability. You only have stability when you buy out the risk. And insurance is pricing risk and then giving someone a profit incentive in order to buy that risk. So they'll buy that risk for whatever the actuaries think that the risk is worth, basically how often it's going to come up. And then you have to add a little bit of profit incentive to that. And to make sure people don't take advantage of that dynamic, we have regulators and we have open insurance markets. And a way to describe the housing bubble is you had an unregulated insurance market, which was the credit default swaps. So the credit default swaps were ways in which risk was being sequestered instead of bought through actual open insurance markets where people can manage risk like we do in any other market. But instead they created lack of oversight and disincentives, morale hazard. And then I can say the same is happening with the universities. So markets, the specifics of your market I might not understand because I'd have to sit watching the stock market closely for 5 years, 10 years to become an expert. I feel like I've watched the housing market in New York enough to start to approach expert level, at least journeyman level. I think 5 years in an industry, you approach a journeyman level, you should be able to make predictions with a fair amount of accuracy on the macro scale. And then maybe after 10 years, you start to become an expert where you've made predictions which have proven true through a complete market cycle. And I got in during the recovery, 2012. And now it seems like we're just kind of begging for another recession or correction. So we'll see as we go through this cycle if what I believe holds true, and then that'll show me how good I am and what else do I have to learn about that market. So, but that's the specifics of a market. But the generalities of a market, they all operate by similar principles because that's just theory. And that's not just, I don't like high economic theory. I like actual tangible theory. The concept of insurance and risk and markets and brokers and brokering and intermediaries that provide value and help transactions happen. That's stuff that you can easily relate to the natural world. And then the psychology of like self-interested individuals and stuff like that. Now you can get into whether that's true or not, how true it is. The internet's proving that it's not as true as we once believed. But this is that calm looking at the world and analyzing problems. It's not dogmatic. It's not, it's not left, right, this or that. It's just pattern recognition and then application. And then you iterate scientific. What is your theory? Test it against the world. But we don't operate in that. That's a rant. Fucking Patriots. The fucking news. Let's talk about this. So evidently Chicken Town is the form, but the fucking news is bold because it does as it's told. Yes, we know about media consolidation. The fucking shows are fucking shit for fucking guns and fucking tits. Yeah. You know, our culture's probably a little bit too much violence solves problems. And can you ever have too much stimulation sexually? I don't know. But I think that's a chicken and an egg thing. I don't care how many tits are on TV. I notice the better laid I am, the less I care. So when you try to suppress sexuality, it seems like you make the issue worse. I think that's a symptom of the problem. Maybe the violence is as well. We're so fearful that we have so much violence in TV because people want these, they want this show of force of like, you know, this makes them feel good. Why do my parents watch CIS and all the Blue Bloods and all these criminal dramas? Well, they used to watch Cheers. They used to watch Star Trek. I remember watching Cheers with my folks. I love Cheers. All these old shows, Taxi with Danny DeVito. But I noticed that they're more anxious. Why are they buying into the Trump propaganda? They're more anxious because we're in a more violent world. Our narratives that are being forced upon us explain the world less and less. And so, I mean, all of that war stuff's still there. It's just, if it's not at the forefront of your mind, it's in the back of your mind. But people know that was a bullshit war. They have a feeling that we're being ripped off. No one's speaking about it. For fucking moms and fucking dads, for fucking kids, it's fucking rad. Because kids, it's like sugar crack. It's overstimulation. It's like hip hop has gone from a culture of pride and self determination that came out of the slums and oppressed, which, as most cultures do, oppressed people standing up and claiming their voice. You know, the narrative, you know, the narratives, once they completely abandon you and you have no description of who you are, then you just create your own. I think that's why all counterculture, alternative cultures come from the bottom. They come from people who've been completely neglected. And so out of human necessity, we create our own story, but now it gets co-opted because it makes money by the dominant culture, and it turns into something funny. Rich kids, and then people, they say, oh, they're appropriating black culture. Who gives a fuck? This is just what happens to culture. Culture was counterculture, and then it gets appropriated by mainstream. Happened with rock and roll, happens with everything. What are our values? Are we trying to just generate culture in order to make money? The culture was a voice for people who are oppressed. If you care about that, then let's just talk about that. And if you just want to be entertained, then you'll be entertained. There's plenty more oppressed people out in the world being creative. That's the funny thing about money and comfort. It lowers your creativity. So I feel more alive on this. That's what this poverty walk this year has been. Remembering who I am and that it doesn't depend on money. I was too dependent on comfort with less. You know, I was hitting some girls up on Tinder, being at my folks and being a little lonely. And I'm like, all right, probably a little bit too dependent on porn. And it's kind of hard for me to just ignore that side of my personality completely. So I'm like, all right, maybe I should go find something to poke on while I'm here. And then I'm going to go. I mean, I've been getting out more. That's part of the reason of going to the gym too, to get out more. And so you giving yourself more opportunities to run into people in the real world, which is the healthiest way, I think, to do it. But you got to play that internet game. And then also, I'm in such a headspace that maybe I'm more cerebral and I'll make a better connection by talking to someone first. Definitely less judgmental. So I'm like, when was the last time I was trying to hit people up online? Well, I've done some Craigslist stuff. And a couple of years ago, I did Tinder. And then I noticed that I'm a little bit different in how I approach people, having more experience. Because this last relationship I had the last couple of years was definitely the most, like they're all, you know, I'm sure I'm going to get even more experience the next one. But this one rounded out a lot of stuff that, like, this was the baddest bitch I've been with. She ran dudes completely. And we had an agreement, we got together, but like, it's going to take a lot for me to find someone wilder than her. She was pretty wild. She's a dancer, and dancers usually really know how to use their sexuality because that's their job. She was a dancer in the professional sense and also in the stage sense. She just liked performing wherever it was, whether it was ballet or it was in Jersey. And she had a lot of admirers, and so you have to be very calm and in control of your energy with a woman like that. They don't play with that jealousy thing, which is a lot what Addie showed me. She showed me all the negative effects of jealousy and insecurity. So in the future now, when I started practicing with other people, like with Rachel, I couldn't play some of the shit I played with Addie if I wanted Rachel to progress, and that only progressed to a certain level. Um, but uh, but yeah, so I was like, how I'm hitting up these girls now? I'm like, wow, I'm a lot more mellow. Even when I was younger, even a couple years ago, I would just entertain myself more than think of the other person. Just say something just to say it. And now I'm more like sincere. And I think that's what life does if you're really paying attention and trying to grow and learn is what is it? Something I within this year, it's a very good quote. I forgot it the exact words, but it's that um, being cool is pretending like you don't care, and a lot of people think that that's where it ends. They're like, oh yeah, being cool is you just got to act like you don't care. Which, in order to get some experiences in life, you really have to like calm yourself down, and you just, even if you care a bunch, be like, yo, play it cool. But I think being a man is being actually caring, like really caring. Because if you really care and you have that bigger perspective, it's acting like you don't care lowers your sensitivity, which will get you into certain rooms and into certain relationships and into certain things. But actually caring doesn't give you an excuse to pop off at the mouth or act stupid to someone. Actually caring, but then knowing how to implement that sincerity is what gets you that highest reward. In a relationship, actually caring, but actually caring isn't being like what they call a nice guy online. Actually caring, or like in sales, actually caring isn't giving up your paycheck. It's just having the self respect to be like, I care enough about you to take the money off the table to say that in our first consultation, we're going to talk about how much my services are worth. But once we get that agreement, you have me at 12 midnight. You have me like, if you need something, I'm there for you because my clients are family and I'm the best person you can possibly hire to solve your problem. But I could only be that if I'm not worried about you fucking me over by not paying me. So that type of honesty, that's what I kept telling myself when I was learning real estate. It's like, wow, you really have to be honest with your intention up front. This is a lot like relationships. It takes courage to, when you meet someone, be like that's, there's this girl 33 and she said in what she's looking for, kinky, creative, intelligent. She had a little mini rant about anti-vaxxers, which tells me what she's reading online. But then she was like non-monogamous. And I'm like, yeah, this girl's not really looking for like a dude to like marry. She's just looking for a little fun. But in your 30s, when you date in your 30s, uh, you learn that being upfront saves a lot of bullshit. Um, and I wonder about that because I enjoy, now I'm 36, I enjoy women in their 20s, but um, it's like I enjoy the young body, but I enjoy the older mind. But then sometimes you find young people who are like old souls who lived a lot for their youth. I find that a lot in big cities like New York, and that's a really nice mix of the two. But then also, I was with this girl who's 37, 38 recently, and that just reminded me how attractive people are in general. Like an older woman who really knows how to wield her sexuality, just like that dancer who really knows how to put her body in a certain pose that just like arch her back, make herself look sexy. There's something to like a woman who is in control of her sexuality, and that takes time to learn, just like a man too. I got through one stanza. Fucking kids is fucking rad. No one questions fucking shit. Everyone's a patriot. Patriotism, the thing that people fall back on. Schools are sad. Books are bad. Weed's a cure for greed and hurt. I always like that. Shaking the etch a sketch. Weed's not the cure, but weed is a part of the process of curing, I think. It helps knock you out of your framework. Now, if I knock you out of your framework and don't give you a better one, then we're just shaking the edge. You still have to draw something new. But weed helps get rid of the clutter. It's a part. When I am redoing my room in my apartment, when I would like every couple months, instead of moving, because I was in real estate 5, 6 years, I would rearrange my apartment every couple months, just furniture from this room to that room, put my bed in the living room. But I would smoke weed. I did mushrooms once, but then I just stopped working completely and just listened to jazz. But I would smoke weed, and you just like, it helps open up possibilities when you're problem solving, especially spatially. Jobs are threats. Yeah, the fucking jobs are fucking threats. I should speak on that. They talk about the economy, just more of this fear mongering. Most of the ways that we have our political discussions are stimulating you through fear and threats. Because these little baby brokers, it's like if I had to characterize the political industry as I see it all my life, it's a lot like the shitty brokers that I saw in real estate. Is that they're closing business in these amoral, well, amoral, I don't believe in morals, efficiency. These inefficient ways, you're not building a book. I'm treating people well, and so they're referring their friends, and I have people who are going to buy apartments from me eventually. That's why I stopped real estate. I was getting into the point where these are real commitments. When you're shopping to sell or buy an apartment, now that's 3 6 months. I couldn't just, with rentals, you can just step in, make money, and within a week, you've made the relationship, made the money, and goodbye. But now I was going to be stuck in stuff for at least quarters, if not half a year. But it's because I knew I had done such a good job over 5 6 years. I had good people who I still don't know what I'm going to do with those relationships. I had relationships. Building a business means building relationships. And if you're in sales, if you're in brokering, your book of relationships is what's valuable because that's the people who stick with you. My parents survived the recession only because they have loyal customers. They're loyal customers because they weren't the biggest, but they try to treat people well. Um, the only choice you fucking get, everyone's a patriot. The narratives are so confining that we don't have a space. I mean, look what they do to us physically. George Bush, and then Obama didn't lessen any of those restrictions. Obama took the dictatorship of the executive, and he was harder on journalists than George Bush was because he had more cover. Obama didn't, as for a constitutional scholar, he didn't do anything to, or hardly anything to open up uh, our constitutional democracy and heal from what George Bush did. And that's the danger is now you pass those tools on to the next person. And what if the next person is just like a complete moron? Um, or like a warmonger, like, but even worse. How can you be worse than what George Bush Jr. did? How can you be worse than a $6 trillion never-ending war? Um, those emotions are coming up. The con is big. The polls are rigged. The Fed's a joke. Federal Reserve. Who believes that that's a democratic idea? We can't even audit this stuff. The debt smoke. That fear. Them China and them Russians and them Chinese Russians. Fucking out of fucking luck. The fucking poor fucking fuck. The rich again fucking rich. Every Republican administration cuts taxes on the rich. We never come back and balance that out. The fucking vote is lost. Hope is tossed. I'm proud. When I did my taxes, I ballparked it, and I need to hire a guy to go over them because I'm probably begging for an audit. But first, I have to pay them. But I owe about 100,000 probably now because I have a couple years now that I just kind of put on the back burner and just did payment plans. So I'm probably up to at least like I had 40,000, then I didn't file 17, and that was at least 40,000, 40 or 50. So I'm probably up to close to 100 plus penalties and everything. Um, but I walk myself to like a tenth of my income. I think it's bullshit to pay a third of your income in taxes. But smart people like me were capable. It's like I think it's bullshit to pay a third of your income in taxes, so I don't. I have my own business, and I could write everything off. That being said, if you zero out and I pay nothing, I'm begging for an audit. They audit us small businesses, and the last 2016 I made 170, so I'm right in the bracket that they're going to audit, but I need to get a real taxman to go look over my paperwork. But I figure I get it down to about 10% to like 17,000, 20,000. I'm happy with that. So I have a couple of those years and then a couple more years to add on to. And then some old stuff. Um, Maybe it's not 100,000. Maybe it's closer to 80. But I that's something to be proud of. Like I'll pay my share into America, and then I'll have my say in the direction of America. 10% a tithe. That's how I grew up as a Christian. I'll give 10% to the society that made my money with me. But when people say the rich should pay 90%, it's like I don't know. I think that might be propaganda too. We should talk about these things rationally. And when people present their opinion, we should ask them what their values are. And then we should approach everything in a scientific method. And we should iterate and run experiments. But this is more like, no, we're emotion based. The left, the fucking right, fucking power in their eyes. A war is fucking lit like a bag of fucking shit. I like that because that's an image of like a flaming bag of shit on someone's doorstep. You smell a fucking mess. We all do. You're silent like the rest. Why? Are you a coward? It's okay. I can't hear you. You don't even have to answer then. But I'm just wondering why people don't speak up. Because I'm speaking up. I put my social security number on my arm. And people call me stupid. But I think that's just because they don't relate to my values. A coward doesn't tell you he's a coward or she's a coward. They just duck danger. So I kind of just put myself out there. I'm out here. What? You got one life. Most of the people that I've ever respected in life are courageous to a fault. The good stuff in life only comes after you put that fear aside. You could still be afraid. You don't fear keeps you. It's those emotions, the heightened senses. This is your faster mind now working in order to make sure you're taking in more information. When people are in a life or death situation, they're more aware. They say time slows down. Now you're just processing more. Psychedelics kind of help you with that too, tapping into different parts of your brain. But fear is so boring compared to every other option that life offers you. So everyone's silent because they've bought the narratives that keeping your head down, and buying that next iPhone is the coolest thing you could do with this one meat sack flying on this little speck of dust through the cosmos. The war is fucking right. Fucking costs a bunch of bit. The story's fucking told, so that's cool. Like all these little stories, narratives, all these language that I was using even back then. Heroes fucking cold, the soldiers fucking brave, the country's fucking saved, and the Muslims fucking wrong. These are narratives. These anti-Muslim, anti-Islam narratives have been out since the beginning, and they're very profitable. That's one of the, if I had to say one thing about Joe Rogan, it's that he's a flag fucker. He has that huge flag behind him, and he buys into the dominant narratives that offer him profit. I've never respected people like that. How much is he willing to put his neck out to actually stand up for something that would go against the dominant narrative? Not much at all, because he's too famous now, and he has too little values. And so there'd be a response. And if you don't know what you believe in, then that response will destroy you. Look at these other titans of pop culture. As soon as they step beyond the dominant narrative, they're literally torn to shreds. Dave Chappelle, Michael Jackson, Kanye West. And if you don't really know who you are, which is what I'm trying to do, all of this is my own armor. I say they do these videos for myself because this is what I'm going to wear into battle. It's my very strong sense of who I am. But when people talk to me, I know who I am. And then your opposition probably doesn't know who they are. Because there's one truth. That truth I don't own and no one else owns. That truth is something we're creating together. But it's definitely not the propaganda or the false narratives, or like, Muslims definitely aren't the enemy. All soldiers definitely aren't brave. In fact, fear is what heightens our senses. Soldiers are just supposed to do the right thing, and the best ones that I think deserve to be called the heroes, the good ones, are the ones that do the right thing despite what they're feeling. And that's what I'm trying to do, right? It's like I didn't have I lost out on my standard soldier career, military career, because the institution, the culture, and who I was at the time. But that's still within me. I'm still the son of a World War II fighter pilot who got shrapnel in his legs. There's plenty of evidence of crazy shit in my family to let me know what runs through my bloods. I'm still looking for my fight, my battle, my hill to run up. So, but this is like saying the soldier's brave. It's more than that. No, it's about next man up. It's about seeing where the fight is and then going to it. Because if you don't, then everyone you love and everything that you care about behind you, that evil, that fight is going to reach them. So in the social group, those of us who are capable, we go to the outside in order to defend and create a space. That's something about manhood I've only learned through living, creating a space for people in my life. But if I talk about manhood and womanhood, I feel like the male energy creates the space for the female energy to create. These are generalities, but the exception proves the rule. There's exceptions to this, but there's a reason why there are exceptions. For the most part, men are the stronger sex, and for the most part, we have these certain traits which allow us to create a safe space, which would make sense because the females are the baby-carrying, creating force, and you're very vulnerable when you have 9 months that you're carrying this thing in your womb. So the hunter-gatherers, play that metaphor out in society. Those of us who can do, in order to afford the protection for those who can't. Communism feels the same way. They're like, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Capitalism feels the same way. Do they? I don't know. I think so. If you read Adam Smith, you see this ethical view of markets. The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith, he's not a sociopath. He gets on the greedy asshole, just like anyone else would, because you can't live in the society without morals. You won't get love in your life. How are you going to get success unless things are handed to you? The rewards of poor character are self-evident. We see them all the time. Right now we're seeing it in the White House. So character is important, but these narratives are prescriptive and they're top down, and so they ignore a lot of character, and they're simplistic. They're too simple for what we need in order to not perfect, but in order to improve our human nature, which is what character is. It's the improvement of human nature over time through reflection and through values and everything. The stories we're sold is just heroes are cold, so sensitivity is a bad thing. Soldiers are brave. So it's all about that tells me this, like what I was told in the military, just do the right thing. But don't question what the right thing means. The country's saved. If we said we went to Iraq to save them, then that's what we did, despite any evidence to the contrary. Muslims wrong, because we're the Christian Western tradition, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it, because our empire was based off of the Roman Empire, and they killed Jesus. So the Western mythology, the Western narrative of it being a Christian tradition doesn't vibe with it being an imperial tradition. You got to kind of pick one or the other. The rise and fall of the Roman Empire, whatever, Gibbon's work gives a lot of responsibility to Christianity for defeating the Roman Empire. So if you're going to have an empire in the modern sense, Christian ethics of compassion and what Jesus actually taught is going to go against the imperial values. It undermined the Roman Empire, and it's probably going to undermine this one. So empire is as anti-Christian as it comes, but whatever. The Muslims wrong, right? Not ourselves. No one's spirituality is not wrong. It's a tool to improve your character at its best, and at worst, it's an excuse not to think. The fucking war's fucking long. Yeah, that's what everyone's saying, right? Was it Dexter Filkins from Harvard wrote his book in the annals of the Harvard Library about the forever war. Fucking douchebag. We didn't fucking, and then he's quoted in all these. Whenever you need a pro-war, it's just going to take forever. It's just going to be here forever because these people are just backwards. Yeah, the fucking war's long is a narrative that's always out there. And we didn't start this shit. We just responded in 9/11. We're just patriots. It's probably enough of that. 40 minutes. We're going to do a 10-minute video eventually. I'll run out of things to say someday.